Alright, today's the day. I'm gonna talk about my old friends. I haven't really wanted to talk about this because why talk about people that suck? But it's been like 10 years, and I was really interested in making friends when I first moved to Phoenix, and I didn't realize like how crazy everyone there was. So whatever. At the time, I was really interested in traveling and planning road trips and staying with people, like friends of friends, couch surfing, music festivals, and I worked a lot. So I didn't like just have time to go kick it after work or go to parties and shit. That was never like my speed. But I would always ask my friends like, hey, do you want to go to Washington with me? Do you want to go on a road trip around California? You know, that was the type of shit I was into. So on one such trip, I went on a couple of trips to the Northwest, and one of the times that I went with my really good friend Jamie, and I'm just gonna use people's real names because these people have had no problem using my real name, so just clearing the air here a little bit. This all happened like in the time, you know, I went to college in like 2009, so this is all like only really rich or like really uppity people had smartphones, and I wasn't either of those. You know, I just worked in restaurants. So yeah, I met Zezy when I was at a music festival with Jamie, and we were wandering around, you know, looking for people from Arizona, and then we found an Arizona flag, and we were like, oh my god. And I told the story so many times. Like every time I met Zezy, I would always tell this story, or you know, I would link up with her, and people would always be like, oh wow, because I thought we were great friends, but she was like, she didn't really like me that much. She was from Tucson, and the first time I met her, she was like making a balloon animal and wearing these America suspenders. I was like, oh wow, like what a trip. And she ended up not having a dorm when she came to ASU, and we started talking that first time I saw her, and she, you know, told me she was going to ASU, and I was like, oh my god, me too. And you know, Jamie was going to school in Tempe as well, so it was just like this super fun thing. So anyway, fast forward a couple months later, she has nowhere to stay. I offered to let her stay with me. I was like, just pay the utilities, we'll make you, you know, your own space in the living room, we'll make it work, because she had nowhere to stay. So, and I like didn't really know her, you know, I was just like trying to be nice, because that's what my mom would have, you know, wanted me to do, I think. So anyway, she was from Tucson, right? And Tucson's super cliquey. Phoenix is really cliquey, and it was really hard for me to break into the scene there. I went to shows for years. No one would talk to me. People would ask where I was from. You know, people who years later would end up, you know, be trying to kiss my ass to get on the guest list, you know, so they could save $10 fucking. Like, broke bitches never will understand it. So yeah, like I basically like just helped Zezy a lot in that friendship. If she needed a job, I helped her get a job. She was going to school for art, and she expressed that she wasn't really thinking that she would want to go, you know, all the way with it. So I suggested, you know, she was really good at math, so she became an engineer. And I tried to be a really good friend to her. We were in college at the same time. I was going for writing, and I should have stayed for writing because I'm a good writer. And she would always tell me how smart I was, and you know, all this stuff. But all of her friends were always really fucking rude to me. And she was a vegetarian, so she was like really like weird about the food she would eat. And I wouldn't always remember, you know, because I just saw it as an eating disorder. Because I used to be vegan before I'd moved there, so I was just like, just eat the fucking food. Like, stop being so fucking weird. And that bothered her. Yeah, so she'd throw these like elaborate birthday parties for herself and invite me, and then just kind of, you know, like I would help her set up and all this stuff, and then I would like leave when the party started. Like at the time, I didn't like realize that she didn't really like me, but she didn't. You know, I helped her get a number of jobs at Pomo. She helped me get a job at she got a job that she didn't want to keep at a coffee shop that I ended up getting fired from. The guy was an absolute psychopath. Yeah, he was like yelling at me. I think because I opened like 5 minutes earlier than I should have. Something like that, something very small. Anyway, so Zezy did a few things for me and then always made a big deal out of it. And I did tons of things for her, and I tried to not really make a big deal out of it at all. I went to her graduation, and she made a point of telling everyone, like, oh, the reason I'm an engineer is because of her. And I was just like, okay, dude, like, chill out. And all of her friends were really rude to me then, and that's when I started thinking, like, I think this girl doesn't really like me. And it made me think back when we were on a road trip together once. Me, Renee, and Zezy were like at a highway rest stop, and we were really like feeling grimy. So it's like, okay, let's all shower. And there was like, one stall free, so we all showered together. There was nothing like sexual about it, at least for me. I was just like, let's just all shower together and get out of here so that we can leave. I didn't want us each to like take a half hour and have it take a million fucking years. But Renee always had these like weird, she'd always like try to flirt with me. So we're all like in the shower, and Renee's like making some weird eye contact, and I just tried to ignore it. But she and Zezy, I could tell, were like, something was happening. And I was just really good at that, not into chicks, and some girls say that they're not into chicks, but they are, and I think that's like what was going on there. Renee had fucked my boyfriend, and Zezy had been my friend, but she had gotten super pissed at me for not being there for her after I had gotten a boyfriend. Which I always think is kind of weird when girls do that. Like, obviously you're not going to talk to your girlfriend as much when you're like, in that lovey-dovey stage of just getting to know your boyfriend, and you want to hang out all the time, and it's just, so yeah, that happened with Jeremiah. She was really, really weird when I was with him, and would always accuse me of being a bad friend. I'm like, dude, I got shit going on now. Like, I'm not just in college, like, sitting around doing my homework all the time. And she wanted to go to the things that I was doing, so she felt like I was excluding her. She was just trying to be a social climber, and she thought that I was too. A lot of the people that I met in Phoenix, they were like, oh, you're a social climber, and I had never heard that term before. I didn't really know what it meant. I just liked going to shows, and I, at that point, was wanting to make a band. So I was trying to find people that I thought would be good to be in a band. I didn't realize how rampant the misogyny was in Phoenix, and no guy will play in a band with you if you're trying to be the lead singer. It's just not going to happen. But I was very optimistic then, so I was thinking I would be able to find some cool guys, and we'd be able to piece together a band and do some shows, and it would be cool. But I'm a lead singer, I'm not a backup singer, I'm a lead. And so guys would try to put me in these like backup roles or on keyboard and stuff, and I can do that, but I'm gonna steal the show, so there's no real point in putting me in a position like that. I understand you gotta like earn your stripes or whatever, but it's just awkward when you go to shows when there's someone that they're like trying to do that to, that is just a lead singer, and no one wants to work with him. So yeah, that's what I thought was going to happen. I wanted to make music. None of those girls made music, and they expressed no interest in, learning to make music. They didn't want to play guitar or drums or anything like that. So I didn't really pursue a creative relationship with them. I just thought we'd be friends. But then they turned around and, gossiped to me, or about me, to everyone, everyone. And, people already thought it was kind of weird because I was dating a promoter, but he was willing to date me. He was nice to me. He took me on dates. Up until he fucked Renee, things were good. And, he actually told me the truth about it. He didn't lie. He didn't deny it. He took her to an Arcade Fire show, and he had asked me to go, and for whatever reason I couldn't. And Renee and I worked together, so I think I ended up working for her that night, and she went to the concert. Something just totally fucked, which my friends would do that a lot to me. These are my friends, and they'd be like, oh, will you work for me? And then I see them later that night, like, oh, you missed a great show. I'm like, wait, I wasn't working. I covered your shift so you could go to a show with my boyfriend? Oh, wow. Yeah, so Zezy didn't do that. She, not as much. She would still, try to get in free at shows, and then she slowly started working door and making friends with my friends. I think it just, the crazy bitch just took over her. She got mad at me a couple times because she had a pretty visible mustache, and I would, usually bring it up because when you put on powder makeup, it just, brings that out even more. So I was just trying to be her friend. I was like, dude, you should wax that or tweeze that, make that go away, because you can totally see it. And I have facial hair, so I would appreciate someone telling me if they could see my facial hair when I thought they couldn't. But she was just, I guess she was just trying to rock it. So that really offended her. She just she was never willing to just be my friend. If I ever wanted to go chill out at her house because I had a doctor's appointment or something to do, it was always this huge inconvenience. But if she ever wanted to come chill out at my house and bring a bunch of people over, I was just supposed to be cool with it. Just really weird stuff. That now 10 years later, I'm like, I can't believe that, I lived a life like that in my 20s where I just had all these people around all the time that were just taking and asking for stuff and never giving anything. And then, 10 years after the fact, to see, that they're all still friends with each other, and they all probably are sleeping with each other. It just, I don't know. Sometimes it's so hard. You miss people. You're like, oh, maybe I did something wrong. I did nothing wrong in the friendship with Zezy. I was always there for her. Towards the end of our friendship, the final straw for me was her. She had just graduated. She was planning a trip to Thailand, and she was just being a fucking cunt. She was like, oh, I'm so stressed out planning my trip to Thailand. You don't understand. Oh, getting your passport and traveling. And I was just like, dude, you're such a pretentious fuck. The whole reason we connected is because we were both poor growing up. And she's like, oh, I grew up in the slums and Tucson, and I lived it rough, and blah blah blah. I help out my mom, and I'm a good kid. And she just was just such a fucking user, and dropped me. I was struggling so much at that point. That was right around the time that I became homeless. I lost my apartment, and shit just it left for me. It was a really, really hard time in my life. And all of my friends, my Brandon Decker, who I knew Brandon in Sedona, and I introduced him to all of my friends in Phoenix because, again, I was dating a promoter and he was in a band, and I had tried playing a little bit with Brandon, but it was the same kind of a thing. And he was one of the first people that addressed it. He's like, you're a lead vocalist, I'm a lead vocalist, it's not gonna really work. I like to sing with you, it's fun. I loved singing his songs, but he was really straight up about it. He was like, I'm not going to be able to have you on stage with me or sing songs with me because you will steal the show. And it's not, the band isn't called Katie, the band's called Decker, so I was like, okay, whatever. But so he just, totally made friends with all of my friends. And, like, wouldn't help me. You know, he was living in Sedona, and he had a place in Phoenix. He could have let me stay there. I just needed someone to treat me with some fucking respect. I had, like, had an abortion not long before, and then just, like, my whole world just fucking crumbled around me. All my friends bailed on me so that they could get fucking free tickets to shows. People that I thought were, like, artists. They were good people that cared about truth and freedom, dignity, respect. They didn't. They just cared about fucking not having to pay their entrance fee. So, yeah, that was pretty heavy duty for me. I was so young and so naive, and I cared so much about having friends and making art and collaborating with people. It just totally shifted my whole perspective about everything. Because I just totally, you know, secluded into myself. I moved to Portland shortly after that and moved back, and, you know, tried making nice with Renee, tried connecting with Zezy, and they all just, like, made fun of me, made jokes about how I, you know, oh, are you gonna go back to the mental institution? Which was such a cruel thing. Like, I had called a suicide hotline and said I was, like, you know, thinking about ending my life, and so they put me on a 24-hour hold, and they let me go after 12 hours, because they were like, oh, okay, everything you just described sounds, you know, you're not going to kill yourself though, right? So, you don't have any plans to kill yourself, so, okay, just get the fuck out of here. So, yeah, and all my friends were making fun of me about that. And meanwhile, these are crazy people. They'll fuck 5 people in a day, they'll do coke, they'll fuck your boyfriend, they'll fuck your boyfriend's dad. I mean, they have absolutely no standards, no qualms, and they look at you, you know. And I was straight edge for most of my life. I barely started drinking when I moved to Phoenix. You know, I got really drunk on my 21st birthday and puked in my shoes, and that was like the first time I'd really had anything to drink. So I had no experience with alcoholism and binge drinking, day drinking, party culture, none of it. I just got totally chewed up and spit back out again. So I'm really worried when people, you know, move to Phoenix, because I know what it's like. I know what those people are like. They're all swingers. I really like this guy, James, right? Every single one of that fucking guy's friends tried to fuck me. He had a huge friend group, right? I met him at a show, I think is how I saw him at a show, and then I ended up going to one of his shows, like a couple weeks later or a month later, because I was like, oh, that guy's so dreamy. And met a bunch of his friends, and then, you know, over the course of the next 5 years, all of those different friends that I met in, you know, whatever different setting, they all tried to fuck me. You know, I'm talking like 40, 50 people, maybe more. Some of them were couples, some of them were like my other, you know, my ex-boyfriend's friends that tried to fuck me. And that just was like, I think for some people that might make them feel like confident or like good about themselves, and it did not make me feel that way at all. I was like, oh my God, I thought these people liked me for me. I thought that they saw me for who I am, because I was so intense. I never let anybody see me without makeup. I would not go out without makeup on, you know. Only my boyfriend saw me without makeup. And yeah, it was very particular. I never left the house without looking just like 100% great. And yeah, so all those people, after we broke up, they tried to bang me, and I was just like, what? Oh my God, I thought you were a good person. Like, you're in a relation. Like, why would you want to fuck me? Like, oh my God, no. You couldn't handle me. Having bad sex is like the worst thing ever. And yeah, so many of his friends tried. That was the hardest thing about living in Phoenix. All of Jeremiah's friends trying to fuck me, and all these awful guys, you know, saying after the fact that they did bang me. I'm just like, oh my God, no. Hanging out with someone once drunk because you're like at a bar and you run into someone that you meet at like 1:45 in the morning, like, hey, come back to my house, I'll give you a ride home, and they end up just talking to you for 3 hours, that's not called a hookup. That's called, like, you're a captive audience. And and I didn't have a fucking I had like a brick phone at the time, so it was really easy for me to just get like stuck at people's houses. And occasionally I would have a good friend that would like realize, like, oh, I realized that you disappeared from the bar, and you're off with this weird guy, and he's just talking to you, he's trying to bang you, I'm gonna give you a ride home. Like, thank God for smartphones, you know. But yeah, that's like one of the toughest things about being a young lady, especially if you're trying to make art. So many guys tried to come up to me and be like, oh, you'd be great for this, oh, you'd be great in that. They didn't mean that. They were just trying to fucking bang me and discard me and then ruin my networking opportunities with anyone that isn't a misogynist, because I hate to be like this, but like most guys that are in the art field, they are a misogynist. They don't like women. They don't want women. They don't want you to get paid. They don't want anything to fucking do with you. And I feel bad because I've been kind of a woman hater for many years of my life since all that happened, and it wasn't any of those girls' fault. Well, it's not true exactly, but it wasn't some of those girls' fault, I should say. But like, it's just part of that scene. It's very there's just no loyalty at all. And if you like someone, all of your friends are gonna fuck that guy. So you better not tell anyone if you really like him. So yeah, Zezy. Yep, that was the end of the line with her. I just stopped calling her after the fucking Thailand thing. I was just like, wow. You're telling me you're too busy and too stressed out planning a vacation to let me crash at your house or like even hang out with me, you know, because I saw some videos on YouTube the other day of girls being like, oh my god, I'm really struggling, I was asking my friends to help me, and instead they just planned a trip without me. And it was really triggering for me, because it just reminded me of that whole time in my life, because you know, once they graduated, they felt like they were such hot shit, even though they didn't have a job, you know, and they were strapped with all this debt. They still felt like they were so much better than me, and whatever, like, I never felt like I was better than them, but clearly they felt insecure in some way. Like, I can't help the way that I look. I'll often in videos try to like dress myself down and look, more plain, because people don't like listening to pretty girls, unless I'm like just being like really hateful and mean, but like I don't like being that way. So yeah, I hope all of that made sense. I don't know, you know, I don't really know what I did that bothered Zezy so much, aside from asking her to reciprocate, and then be my friend. I had been there for her so many times through so many breakups. She'd come over to my house, and I'd buy wine, and we'd talk and eat food and eat cheese and laugh and cry and drive, but like, she never did that for me. So I'm just like, who was the bad friend? Like, I broke my foot, I totaled my car, I like lost my job, had to find a new, like, I had so many really big things happen, and all of my friends who I had been there for just fucking dropped me, and now they're just like living their lives, you know, making albums, hanging out, and just like, those friendships meant so much to me, and I meant like nothing to them. Because people assume you just like have it good when you're pretty. Like, they just assume everything's all good with you no matter what. And in reality, things always will be all good with me, because I will make them that way. But it's not just because of how I fucking look, it is in spite of that. I always thought that being pretty would be like a huge benefit to me in my life. I see ugly girls getting way better treatment than I get, and fat girls getting way better treatment than I get. It's just because people don't believe they deserve love or pretty things, so they just settle for mediocre. See it happen all the time. You know, you always wonder why you see a pretty girl with an ugly guy. It's because maybe he's halfway nice to her. And yeah, it's so rare to find that in friendships. Most of my friendships, my friends haven't. I've been super nice to them. I know I've held up my end of the friendship. They sure as shit fucking didn't. And when they were asked to, which you shouldn't have to ask your friend to be there for you, they fucking said they were busy. So, you know, this is someone that I let stay at my house. She had nowhere to go. Oh, stay with me, no problem. But when the roles reversed, I'm busy, I'm going to Thailand,